Those who face eternity easily forget what a lifetime means, what an ending means.
You know it doesn't have to be this way.
No, Kunavine, it does. They need me.
All right, guys, we're here for number 3, the Virtuoso Deep Dive. How's it going, Boots?
Good. Deep dive like deep sea dragon dive?
Oh, definitely. Every time I say that, people are like, "Oh, WP with the puns." Guys, it's not a pun. It's just common parlance. It's just
No, you're very good at
say.
puns. Don't sell yourself short.
No, I just say, and the thing is, people say it every time now. So what it's done is it's made me realize just how uncreative I am with my vocabulary, how regularly I use that phrase. All right, so let's jump in. This is the Willbender, and it's busted crazy fun. You know, Boots, when we looked at the Harbinger video, and it had 2 dashes in the shroud,
Yeah.
suddenly...
Like, oh my goodness, 2 dashes, that's amazing.
Well, suddenly, I'm not so... I don't think it... What it's done is it's tempered my opinions about the Willbender. Because the Willbender's like, oh my god, all these mobility skills. Well, Harbinger's got 2, you know.
Yeah, Harbinger's got and they're very short cooldown too.
But yeah, this is a very speedy thing we're about to see. Possibly the fastest moving thing in the game.
It is definitely, just on visual interpretation so far, gonna be the most fun thing to play.
I think it'll be really fun as long as it has the kill pressure to keep dancing and you know, if I'm just spamming mobility, I'm talking about open world PvE right now. If I'm just spamming mobility and the thing's not dead, it's gonna be a bit.
I think open world PvE, you just run the virtue, the permeating wrath or whatever it's called that feeds off of justice.
Yeah.
And then just AoE all your justice damage and go fire and yeah. Ooh,
all right.
Ooh.
We're jumping the gun, guys. Here we go. Let's look at the Willbender and see what it's all about.
Last elite specialization today in that lore.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Willbender is actually really exciting on that note specifically because it gave us an opportunity to not just dive into the lore, but to dive into the lore of ancient Cantha, even predating what we knew from factions. So Willbenders are traditionally protectors of the Emperor of Cantha, or the Throne of Cantha, more specifically Empresses too.
It's interesting to hear her talk about that because the lore as we knew it before this expansion is that it was very patriarchal, and now all of a sudden they're talking about these empresses and there's like an empress voice actress that's coming in. I'm really curious to see what their plans have been with this.
And more specifically to that, they were protectors of the Way No Su, or to be closer to the stars, which were certain emperors and empresses that had achieved ascension through celestial trials. So they're mildly important and probably shouldn't be killed. So Willbenders are really, really potent protectors, and which goes along with the Guardian class as a whole. But like the Harbinger, they're kind of a tonal breakaway from what we're used to. They're definitely still protectors, but in their gameplay, they're a little bit more brutal. And with their new offhand sword, their whole thing, they're kind of like more of like an assassin.
He protect, but most importantly, he attack.
So the big idea here being, I've mentioned it on a recent video, I don't know if I did in conversation with you yet, Boots, but basically this is Shiro. If he hadn't been pulled away by Abaddon and the Fortune Teller, Shiro is essentially a Willbender.
Or the swords, or the throne's sword hand, more specifically.
And the idea, by the way, of a Shiro Revenant interacting with Willbenders in Cantha, I'm actually really excited to see.
And their whole MO is that they get in there quickly. They're the first one to strike. And I'm really excited for everybody to dig into.
I wonder if we'll see, like, a character that somehow influenced Shiro. Like, Shiro learned his assassin techniques and so on from a Willbender that was above him or before him, kind of thing. And they might expand on that a little bit. By the way, I love that they talk a bit about Way No Su and the Celestial Trials and stuff. This is some really messy lore, basically. If they're actually embracing and looking at in the expansion, they might be cleaning it up and making the whole universe feel a bit more cohesive, which I really like.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to like in Path of Fire, where they had certain NPCs that kind of explain what your elite spec is and how it came to be. I'm looking forward to seeing that in this.
Yeah. I'm guessing the Virtuoso one will be in Xingji, by the way, based on what Indigo said before.
That a little bit more with Cal, because it's one of the more unique takes on a class that we're very familiar with.
Thanks, Indigo.
Let's do that now.
I love that shot of Ruby there. It's so funny, man. I love their streams.
Yeah, so Willbender, super zoomy, fast Guardian. We saw a little bit on
Gotta
the
go fast. He's
featurette.
blue.
A lot of mobility. We'll be really diving into that, but really pushing that more assassin-y, roamer, kind of skirmisher playstyle. I mean, we've seen the similar silhouette with like Sword Revenant heavy armor, with that similar high mobility playstyle. Warrior maybe a little bit slower with their offhand sword. But Guardian is really going to be pushing, again, toward that more melee brawl.
I like how he's in the monk's outfit here, by the way.
I pointed this out before too. He looks like Menlo.
Glacier again, high mobility, a little bit disconnected from the usual deliberate, slow movements that we see with the Guardian profession. And for all of the spreadsheeters out there, this character has 2,189 power, so all three of them are different. That's just how the default loadouts turned out. I'm going to go complain about that to somebody after this.
Yeah.
But keep that in mind when we're running through skill facts. But first, before we get into the sword, let's talk about the profession mechanic a little bit. So we're going to see something pretty different from the kind of typical virtues that Guardian has. We're very used to these passives that are just always there, and then you're going to activate the virtue, and it's going to have like a singular upfront effect. But the Willbender virtues are quite different.
By the way, I kind of like what they're doing with the tooltips here. This is actually kind of a new format for tooltips, where usually when they do two separate boxes like this, usually it's like because you'll flip into the other box. But here it's literally just saying, okay, here's half the skill, here's the other half of the skill. And, you know, they could have bundled that all into one epic box if they had liked. And on some examples in the past, you might see that. Like, if you think about, like, an Ellie Dagger 3, as we were talking about in a recent video, the trail that gets dropped behind you, that's not in a separate box. It's all the same box. But here they've split it apart for clarity, and I quite like that.
There's actually no passive attached to these. There's only going to be kind of this active stance. I don't really want to call it a stance because we have a stance.
Don't call it a stance because then you'll make me think it interacts with stance things.
Style of play where you kind of enter justice stance and then your outgoing strikes are going to apply burning. So if I'm just hitting this guy, hitting these guys, see, no burning procs. But once I hop into justice here, we're going to then start accumulating the more understood justice gameplay. And we saw a little bit there on the ground. This is going to be something that we see across all of the different different virtues here. They all kind of have their own flavor of what we're calling Willbender flames.
I'm a bit disappointed we don't get to see just the claw on its own on the ground. On my first impressions of this whole stream, I said I wish we'd got a little bit more like just looking at the visuals. And this is like one of those moments to me where it's like, oh man, the only time he ever really cast this is right at the feet of a ton of golems that are standing on it.
Well, it has to be because you could only target a thing with it.
Have the
it would be nice to be able to see the thing though, you know? It doesn't have to be under a stack of 1 billion massive golems. It could be on a raccoon on the ground that instantly dies, do you know what I mean?
Project triple claw on the ground. This is actually target controlled, so it can only hit one target even if you're standing on all three. The intent of the Willbender flames is less about damage and more...
Also, you don't need a target, do you?
Yeah, you do.
You need
that one?
just for the F1 though. So let's say I'm escaping with the mobility on the skills.
You can't.
With F1, but F2 and 3 you can.
That's my understanding.
I thought F3 was the teleport and needed the target.
F3 is kind of like a leap teleport thing, yeah. F2 is also a charge, but it looks like it's ground targeted, so I assume you could do it in any direction. But F1 is definitely a charge, but at a target.
All right, okay. But the thing is, like, if you look at like Rush on a Warrior's Greatsword, that's a charge at a target, but you don't need a target to rush. How do you know you need... My understanding is
that because I think he says so.
Oh, okay.
Or about giving you additional strikes, because we're going to see similar mechanical behavior on both Resolve and Courage. That's a little bit different from what we're used to, but we're going to see that these Willbender flames really serve to provide a little bit more value to that style of gameplay. So we saw the claw with justice, resolve, we're going to have the little straight line, and courage.
Yeah, so
we'll come
resolve,
back to
you
these
can
skills
do
again.
it anywhere.
We have
And
the-
Yeah,
same thing
and
with
F3 was
nice
Yeah.
circular AoE radius. So a few
So
different
that's
flavors of Willbender
two
flames.
any directional movements things on your virtues out of 3.
Just to really push a little bit of those extra strikes. And as we were talking about, this character is super fast, high mobility. All of these, all the virtues are mobility skills. So we see a
That's
pretty
kind of a
decent
slow attack
range
after
on
you get there.
justice.
Oh, so F2 drops the flame line, F1 drops the
Those
claws.
again, we
Yeah.
have the nice circular AoE radius. So a few different flavors of Willbender flames, just to really push a little bit of those extra strikes. And as we were
Look how
talking
slow
about,
it
this
is.
character is super fast, high mobility. All of these, all the
See,
virtues
look at
are
that. That's a
mobility
very slow
skills.
animation.
So we see a pretty decent range on justice.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Resolve in there, decent dash. This one's also an evade. And yeah, we can just talk about courage real quick. Courage is actually shadow step, pretty long range. Initial hit, it's again pretty low damage on these strikes. They're more just
Courage
intended
is
to
really
push
good.
the virtue triggers. So the actual trigger that we're going to see for resolve is that instead of having that initial upfront heal that we see on like core resolve and wings of resolve, is that it's going to have the similar justice mechanic of every 5 strikes is going to heal you a little bit.
This is going to feel like the Weaver heal skill. Which
little bit.
Which I never really used, by the way.
Also important to note, F2, besides being able to go anywhere you want, is an evade.
Yeah.
So we'll just lose some health here real quick and be in combat, so that matters. So see that while we're in justice, we're getting this, or in resolve, sorry, we're seeing 652, pretty reasonable proc. You can actually get a lot of healing. Obviously, I'm cleaving.
What's that symbol I just saw drop? Never mind me with this question. Here in editing, I can see he just did a little sword 2, and the reason he did that and put that symbol there was so we could see lots of resolve procs, so we could see the healing coming in.
Like 5 goals
I think it was
5
his
goals at a time. So maybe more in that level
F2?
environment,
I don't
more in
know.
that open world, blobs of enemies. You're going to have a lot of opportunity to get a lot of potential.
But he was
healing here.
getting double healed sometimes there.
Or if all your enemies stack up in PvP, maybe you can also do that. Probably a little bit harder to get as many multi-hits, but still a lot of healing potential from the resolve virtue. Then moving into courage, we have crashing courage. And the proc here is actually,
30-second cooldown.
again, a pretty powerful effect.
Yeah, wow, only on 30 seconds.
The 5-hit trigger here is going to be both Aegis and stability. So this is really enabling that kind of dive.
This is crazy, man.
Yeah, you get a stack of Aegis every time you hit, and a stack of stability every time you hit.
That is mental. Can you imagine? And so you just spam out as many multi-packets as you can, and you're just
And you
blocking
just block everything.
so rapidly.
Potential for the character, you're just going to
Dude, run that with Mystic Rebuke. Oh,
if you dive in with courage, you're going to be able to. I didn't attack anything, probably a mistake. I recommend attacking things after you activate your virtues. So that's going to give you the extra up to 12 stacks of stability. That's insane. But again, hitting multiple targets here. That's per five strikes. You're going to get Aegis. You're going to get stability.
so I kind of want to run this with a greatsword, pull everyone in, and then trigger some of these massive
I just
AoE
want to
things.
teleport
Really
into
powerful
things and do a bomb, you know?
kind of give you a little bit more staying power.
Imagine just Judge's Intervention F3, Sword 2. You can just clear so fast now.
In the fight.
Yeah.
But one thing to keep in mind is that these stances, I'll just keep calling them stances, why not? These virtue stances all overwrite each other. So if you fire off Justice and fire into Resolve immediately, you see that I now only have Resolve active. So this is going to create a little bit of decision making in terms of if you want to maximize your mobility or you want to maximize your virtue triggers. Because if you're looking to maximize virtue triggers, maybe your enemy is able to disengage after you dive in with Justice. They shadow step away and you actually need to chase them, so you can't really get full value out of.
So what do you think about
really
like a
wanna-
burn build with Permeating Wrath here?
That's it. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. I need to see, just like Firebrand, I need to see how Permeating Wrath interacts with the quote-unquote stance of Justice.
I'm thinking that might be a really good combo.
Your Justice, and you might need to continually chase after them, and then you're losing access to either Justice or Courage or Resolve. But on the upside, you have a lot of chase potential you just go pretty far. Throw in some movement from skill 5 on the sword.
Yeah, and the sword even has mobility. Even the sword
Yep.
offhand. You know, one thing that did kind of strike me about this, it feels like there's a lot more movement and setup than there is actual payoff in terms of spike. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you think about,
Yeah.
like, the Shiro assassin idea, you have stuff like Death Strike on there, right? A lot of stuff is also multi-packet, but you kind of... On Guardian, it almost feels like, okay, I really do need, like, a greatsword on here so that I can
On
get that
sword-
quick GS2.
On sword, offhand sword 4 is a big attack. We'll get to that soon.
No,
Sword
that's a
thr-
setup attack. Sword 4, that preps, right?
No, it isn't.
It's like a mini Amoeb setup, I'm sure it is.
I thought it was a double sword thing.
It might be a double thing, but I'm pretty sure it's a setup thing.
I don't think so. Anyway, besides that, I just want to get to the point that F1, F2, F3, Sword 2, Sword 5, utility skill 7, you could put Judge's Interventage, you could put the other judgment thing that teleports you. That is 8 movement skills on your bar without swapping weapons.
Yeah, that's a lot of movement. And again, Greatsword GS3, people don't think about it much, but Greatsword is a mobility weapon in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's a really strong mobility weapon. So yeah. Also, yeah, the elite, we're kind of in the middle of two conversations at once here, but the elite as well is kind of a setup elite more than a payoff elite.
We'll talk about that real soon. So a lot of movement. There's even more movement on the utility skills that we will get to in a few moments here. All right,
Probably.
moving into the sword kit. So we have offhand sword, 2 skills here.
Oh, the Amoeb was on this
I'm
one.
going to start out with Advancing Strike. This is the one I kind of showed off. Movement skill. So it's just a dash if you don't have anything targeted.
I love the trail on that, and I love the sound effect with it.
If you have something targeted, if you end up within a certain amount of range at the end of this dash, you are then going to do a final shadow step and attack. So a little bit of that rush, warrior greatsword rush, but a little bit.
What he's talking about there, I feel like a lot of people, even warrior mains, a lot of the time don't really like acknowledge. But yeah, rush, once you get a certain distance in rush, as long as there's a target, there's like an extra little burst of mobility you get with the strike component. It's kind of like 2 skills in one that are elegantly chaining together. And here it's like they've lent into that and turned that back half into a full-on shadow step, which is super
And
cool.
it also, I feel, is a lot stronger than Greatsword Rush.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
More controlled with the shadow step. And then a nice.
I think I'm in love with
slow
this
and
skill. The
very short
animation,
immobilize,
everything.
1 second. It's not intended to be like this major lockdown. We're going to see more of that coming out from the utility skills. We're going to see more of that on the elite skill. Or there's more expectation that this character is going to be set up by their allies and as the assassin dive in and really secure the kill. So Advancing Strike, not going to be enough to fully confirm Executioner's calling here.
Told you.
But if you can get a larger lockdown from either your allies or some of the utility side skills, you can land that. So taking a quick look at Executioner's Calling.
Yeah.
Okay, so strike your foe with rending force after a successful kill. Sorry, after a successful hit, follow this attack with a dual strike. So you do a mini hit and then a massive hit. So that's like an Axe 4, a warrior Axe 4, right? Because both land together kind of thing.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh, and that cleaves 3 targets too.
Mm-hmm.
So is this like the one payoff tool in the kit then? Is there a utility skill with big payoff on it? Like we're talking about like an ability assassin spec that has 1 ability?
This is the main
I
damage
can't remember what modifiers might exist on traits as well though, so the damage might go up.
payoff of the sword offhand.
And by the way, you can still do stuff like timer focus 5, you know, prepper focus 5, swap to the sword offhand, have them both blow up at once.
True.
You can still do your hammer too. Like, people have got to remember, this play style does already exist. A lot of the time, people don't want to acknowledge the fact that the play styles they're giving you do already exist. And we've been bombing people on Guardians and securing the kill with Glacial Heart for a long time. You know, it's not flavor of the month right now. Surprise, surprise, before they can set it back to you. But, you know.
Big damage multiplier. We got some vulnerability in there. Pretty straightforward skill. This is the multi-hit. You do the initial
Not that much
stab
damage, it
animation
looks
into
like,
the double
anyway,
swing.
but
So, you know, you swing your sword and then you swing your swords again.
Yeah, I think he has no ferocity, because that tooltip says it's about 2,000 damage, and then when he crits, it is about 2,000 damage.
I have a
You
feeling
get
that these golems have a
solid
lot
amount
of
of
toughness.
damage coming out from this skill. Yeah, so I mean that's all
He's
there is to
laughing about that
shortcuts. You
because it
still-
doesn't look like that much
it
damage
kind of
because the
really
golems
lean
are
into
so
that
tough.
mobility, damage, assassin type playstyle. And we're going to see a little bit more from the utility side of things, where you can kind of push a little bit more toward crowd control if you really want to, or push more on the mobility side if you want to. Or just
I have a lot of respect for him, by the way, being able to talk through a presentation while typing out commands in chat. Like, basically having two conversations at once he's doing there simultaneously.
That's impressive.
just kind of push for damage if you want to.
Incredibly frustrating to do, probably, but yeah, he did it very well. Oh, I love this heal boots. This is so cool. Reversal Fortune.
I like the heal, but I feel like that the description tooltip is way too verbose. It doesn't need half of that.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, I'm sure we would have mentioned this on Elite Speculation at some point, right?
Yeah, for
Reversal
sure. But look,
Fortune is a heal?
it's not exactly reversal. Yeah, but it's not exactly reversal fortune. So he's going to talk about it, but you block an attack, and if you block the attack, you heal 4,000. If you don't block an attack, you heal 2,000.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
moving
That's
on
all
to
it
the heal
does.
skill, Reversal of Fortune. Guild Wars
Also, it says counter recharge down there. Is this an ammo skill?
one players
It
probably
is.
recognize the name. Kind of a homage.
You can see
to
at the
that
bottom
skill.
of the
We have
skill it has two
a very
charges.
fairly similar mechanic.
But
if
the
not,
mouse
it's
is
not
on it.
exactly the same. And the games are very different. We're not going to see exact one-to-one copies there. But we're going to see with the Reversal of Fortune.
Or it's up
'cause it kind
there.
of has this similar full
This one has a good icon, I think, too. I like the icon on this.
counter
Yeah.
type mechanic where you are
In the
doing
tooltip, I guess when he hovers over it again, we'll talk about it. But in the tooltip, they speak for like 4 paragraphs about if you take lethal damage, it'll negate the lethal damage. But it negates any damage. It negates one attack, whether it's lethal or not, and it does the same thing either way. Why do you talk about lethality?
Right, I don't know. That's an interesting point. Maybe that's like a relic left over from some previous idea. Maybe
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like rebound at some point, which would make it like divine intervention from the first game.
this initial block channel. And if you fail to block anything, you'll get a little bit of a heal here. Let me stay in combat so I don't randomly heal myself. But you're going to see, if you don't block anything, you get a very small heal, not very rewarding. That's totally by design, because the upside of this skill is if you actually block an attack, let's just have my golem friend use some fire grab or something. See, a bigger payoff there, that's about a 4k heal, so about double. But you're also seeing actually taking 0 damage from that ability, so fully absorbing the damage from the incoming attack and getting a heal on top of that.
Now, here's what I'm wondering, Boots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've read that block of text. Is it for that frame you are completely invulnerable? If like 5 attacks are striking you all at once, am I gonna?
I think only one of them gets negated.
So am I gonna block just the one, blood vampirism proc rather than
I think so, yeah.
Oh, that sucks. See, I feel like you should have like a quarter of a second or something. If it procs, that quarter of a second you're safe from whatever. Maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe. But you're out of the animation as soon as you block things, it seems.
It's because there's so many packets so fast in Guild Wars that really doesn't actually sound that exciting to me, because 9 times out of 10 it's going to reduce like a 400 damage strike to 0. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Really,
Well, it does
really
give you
high
a
ups-
unique reversal of fortune buff for 1 second. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does block everything for 1 second, but I don't know.
Side for this skill, because obviously if you're going to block something like Maul or Kill Shot or these heavy damaging attacks, you're effectively gaining tens of thousands of health in combination with the 4,264 of this skill. So pretty high
TO
upside.
though, you're not
and
actually gaining 10,000 health. You're getting 0 from that on top of the healing of the skill.
Well, so
right?
this is interesting.
You're negating 10,000 health and then gaining 4.
Yeah, but he's trying to say that the whole story, it's a big gain for you, and it's a gain as
But
well.
how is it? But how is it different from like the Guardian blocks heal that heals you
I don't
4,000 and blocks for 2 seconds?
I don't think he is saying it's different, but that's a very good comparison you just made there. Shelter basically is what they've built here. They've basically made Shelter again, except it feels a bit like Full Counter, and they can make it an allusion to a Guild Wars 1 ability.
And if you only block one thing, it's clearly worse than Shelter.
This is Shelter with ammo and a slightly
Yeah.
more narrow proc condition. Like
There
shelters.
must have been something more to it, but it was too powerful, and then they changed it because that's the only explanation to why all that lethal discussion is in
Yeah,
there.
I think you're right about that too. Yeah. Shelter is like, okay, in true chaos, a massive fight with tons of stuff, obviously it's better. Reversal of Fortune is like you're 1v1ing a greatsword ranger. Or in open world, you're against a veteran or a champion with a very specific, animation. Now this one's better because it really is only the one thing that's coming at you. It's the maul or whatever. And once you've avoided it, you're all good.
It's definitely going to be kind of a key gameplay moment playing against this character because you're going to want to make sure you don't trigger that reverse
But yeah, fundamentally, I love heal skills that I can play around. So I actually really like this. I like this.
fortune and really limit their options and reduce their healing.
Hydrate, Papega. Lol, lol, lol.
All right, let's move into some of the utility skills. We have the physical skill type.
Boots, you're not reacting to my Twitch memes.
That was very funny, man. That got me good. That was
All right, flash combo. So we're onto the physicals. Shadow step.
Oh yeah, physical skills. So you know what that means.
So what physical runes do we have already?
Yeah, we have no physical runes.
Even though 2 classes can already use them.
That's right. We're getting some physical runes.
So hold on, what did Daredevil runes do?
Nothing. It's Daredevil is I don't think you get physical runes from that.
It's reduced.
Daredevil runes is after dodge.
Oh right, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I hope we get some physical runes. That would bump up all those classes. So flash combo is basically fist flurry.
It's another teleport.
Yeah, and you might say that this is a payoff skill. Maybe it's pretty okay damage.
Sure.
Which is something we've seen in the past on Core Warrior. We've seen it on Daredevil. We're going to see a lot of the same themes, a lot of crowd control, mobility, damage. A lot of the same themes on the Willbender, but kind of doing their own flavor of physical skills. Start off with flash combo, pretty powerful skill here. This is going to be using that kind of fist flurry mechanic that we saw on the Daredevil, where hitting all of these rapid strikes is going to unlock a secondary skill. In this case, it is a Shadow Return.
This skill is insane. Look, the Thief Envy that I see online, I feel like would be way less if this skill didn't exist. This is Fist Flurry. All right, just imagine you're a thief, and you know how annoying it is to get in and get a full Fist Flurry animation out. Now you look at this guy getting it, who gets a free teleport at the start, and a free teleport at the end back out.
If you hit all your fist flurry.
But I mean, it's so much easier to proc now. I see that Thief Envy very, very deeply on a skill like this immediately.
So this is a super powerful cooldown because if you...
Yeah, super powerful cooldown on 20 seconds.
It shouldn't be 20 seconds, for sure. It for sure shouldn't be 20 seconds, but yeah.
I wonder how long that second will hold up. Can I, flash combo... GS2, GS4, yoink 'em or something, and then, port back out? Can I go in, attach a greatsword tether, port back out?
It's 6 seconds. It's 6 seconds.
Yeah, so that's like so much. And then you look at the Daredevils with the Daredevil Elite, and they get absolutely no leeway as they try to chain the 3 skills together. It's crazy, man.
Jump in, land all these abilities. You then have a 6-second window to then fire off the rest of your kit. Just press all your buttons, why not? And then you can have that opportunity to then disengage and get out all in one skill, very strong. And at the same time, then we have the counterplay side of it, where if the Guardian hops in with flash combo, as long as you mitigate one of those, a single attack, then they're not going to be able to hop back out. So we see this golem as Aegis. I'm a terrible player, so I used my skill on a target with Aegis. Don't get my flip over repose, and now I'm just going to get...
Hey, I do that sometimes. I'm not a terrible... Okay, I am a terrible player.
This is also essentially that assassin elite from factions originally. Why am I forgetting its name? Aura of Displacement, I think, which I think is kind of interesting too. I saw some people comparing it to Shadow Step. Shadow Step is, I think, higher range, guys. It's ground targeted, so its activation conditions are much better, and it's a stun break. I mean, come on. It's not the same. It's not the same. Yeah, and it's got a little bit of cleanse on there too. So I do think Shadow Step's way, way, way better. It's actually smarter to compare this to Thief's Sword too, I think. And another, maybe unrelated thought that I've had here during editing, but Mirage got a skill just like this that I basically never use. Feels really weak. So hey,
destroyed by
Yeah,
all
but
these
this should
golems.
probably be. I'm not gonna say a 30-second cooldown.
Moving
but
on, we
yeah.
move into Whirling Light. So this is basically, I mean, this is just a damage skill. This is a pretty solid damage skill. A little bit of weakness in there, but primarily we're looking at power damage, we're looking at burning. This is a super cool whirlwind kick animation, AoE, multiple
It does
strikes.
look cool.
I like that there's burning on it already because that's a multi-packet attack, which you'd want for like a permeating wrath setup.
Yeah.
Think about
exactly.
how much burn you'd immediately splash out with that.
Especially since it's AoE, yeah, and everything else
Yeah,
is AoE, it's gonna be a
and-
ton of damage.
Yeah, and all that, and it's all in one tight little thing as well, I like that.
This also really plays well into the virtues which want
And
those
I love the physical kind of martial arty animation there too. It's really cool. I
Yeah.
love them. I really think they should have just done a martial art monk thing and called this goddamn thing the monk. I really think that's what they should have done, man.
Fine.
But now they can't even do that in the future. you
But
know?
look, you, I'm pretty sure it was you, were concerned about the ability for them to call anything in this expansion a monk because people would be annoyed that it's not exactly what they expected the monk to be. So they're calling it the Willbender, but giving it what you think a monk would have.
Yeah, no, I do see both sides of the coin, and even appreciating all of that, I still think they should have gone with it. I think it's just such a big ticket, easy, like understandable seller for the.
multi-hits. They want you to cleave multiple targets. We're seeing Whirling Light is a great opportunity to do both of those things while also doing a good amount of damage.
I like it.
And as a side effect of this, a kind of bonus effect of the skill is
That's the kind of animation with these lovely trails, by the way, that I'd love to see a super slow-mo video. Did you ever see Shaman's tweets or video where he was like showing Astralaria being wielded by a Mesmer just using like Axe 3? Like just as
Don't
simple as
get
that.
it.
Just it was just a video of a Mirage using Axe 3, but he captured it at 240 frames a second, and then played
Looks
it
great, eh?
and played it back out at 60. And you see like the trail of the legendary and stuff as the Mirage like teleport. It looks so good, and it's like all this amazing detail. And I look at an animation like this, and I'm like, man, that all the trailer has to be for this is just looking at that in slow mo.
also. a
By the
little
way,
bit
I
of
am
movement.
looking forward to going into World vs. World with this as a Condi damage, like a Griever spec, teleporting in with Courage and doing that attack with a Permeating Wrath and just wreaking havoc for a second, then porting in.
And you can't be killed. Yeah, that's a cool idea.
skill, but you're primarily going to want to use it when you're already in melee range because you're already starting these whirlwind kicks at the start.
Oh, I love this as well. The way that it slowly moves and tracks towards the target. This feels really, really well coded and interesting. And he alludes in the commentary to like, if the golems were moving, you would watch it follows them even later. I really like that. I think that's going to feel really fun.
Start of the ability. So using it to engage, you're losing access to the maximum damage potential of this skill.
This also feels like a lot like one of those Weaver animations, by the way. It feels like a Weaver Water 2, but going forwards, almost.
And if
Yeah, a
any of
little
these
bit.
golems ran away from me, you would see that there's a little bit of a chase movement component to this ability. As you like, when I use it
A lot
far
of
away, I
chase
move
on this
toward my
build.
target as long as I'm not already in range. So a little bit of chase down, but primarily a melee range, AoE, big damage ability. Next up, we have Heal Crack. This one's pretty straightforward. Damage and stun, 0.01 in PvP and World v World. Look forward
Yeah,
to that.
it's just a kick, but not as good.
This one, I mean, this is kind of your combo alpha of Advancing Strike because you get the 1 second immobilize here. That can guarantee Heal Crack, and then that can set up Executioner's, the full extent of Executioner's Calling there. So potentially, if you can find room for this skill on your bar, that gives you more personal opportunity to set up yourself instead of relying on allies and really unload all of your damage into a single target.
Again, it's all about setting up the 4.
And final
Yeah.
thing, we might
I
as
don't
well
know,
give
though.
this character Stunbreak. I mean, you know, Glassy Assassin characters probably.
I
one
think
of the
they
best
say
things
that,
in
but
the
it's not actually that important.
Well, I'm just thinking I want a weapon swap to a hammer right now. Because, again, if you run Glacial Heart and you're proccing on, like, dazes and stuns and stuff, you get it from this utility, too.
Yeah, teleporting around with a hammer is gonna be fun.
All right, and then next we've got, what is this called? Roiling Light?
while. So I'll just
Quick
cover this
retribution.
super long skill fact while I take a drink of water.
Oh, he wants us to read it. Okay. Wow, the skill is Roiling Light, and then it rolls into Quick Retribution, right? So,
does it?
physical, break,
Yeah.
stun, and dodge backwards, blinding foes, and gaining swiftness. Then,
That is a powerful stun break.
yeah, this feels like the Daredevil Sunbreak. Like,
Feels a
literally.
little- Yeah.
It's just that where he blocks when he stands up, we evade when we stand up. And we
Yeah,
swap
but
into...
check this out though. there's that. It's a little bit also like, because it's got the evade on it, and a stun break. It's a little bit like the Weaver stun break.
Yeah, Twist of Fate, yeah.
Except it's on a 15-second cooldown.
Yeah, but it's not ammo. But 15
No,
seconds,
true.
yeah, 15 seconds is nuts. And you get blind on it. And then,
Yeah.
okay, and so our attack back is not a knockdown. It's a 3-second daze, which is pretty good. Leap field there. So if you manage to put some kind of field down, what would be really fun to combo out of that?
And a 300 leap, okay.
Yeah, and you can leap back at them. They're really strong, man. It's the cooldowns. If the cooldowns were like reading 60 seconds on all of these, I'd be like, okay, this makes sense.
This cooldown is too low. At least for PvP. I don't know. Or in PvE, it's fine.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Alright,
I
so
agree, actually.
Roiling
PvE
Light.
is good.
Stun break, evade. This is kind of that similar like backwards roll mechanic we see in a lot of skills. Same thing. You do that flip over skill. I was going to touch on, there's also the blind, the initial blind. So get stunned, break a stun, roll away, apply blind, gives you a little bit of coverage to kind of re-engage on top, and we're just going to give you the re-engage on the same skill, quick retribution. This is a 3-second daze, single target though. I mean, you get a lead finisher in there. Maybe there's a
Again, I love the movement and the animations here. I think they flow so well.
combo field on the ground. Get
It's
a
a
little bit extra
3-second daze.
value.
You actually don't
But
even have to
3-second
break
daze, this
stuns
is really
to
gonna allow
get
you
use
to
of the quick
potentially
retribution.
shift the momentum of the fight as you're breaking.
Like
a
you could
stun,
just
evading
precast
attacks,
the
applying a
roiling
blind,
light
applying
just
a daze
for the
on
quick
comeback in,
retribution.
and then gives you another window of opportunity to really push forward with all of your.
Yeah, good point. They might nerf that. They might tweak that. You might need to actually proc it. Because that's basically just another engage for you.
Yeah.
And on that kind of low cooldown.
Damage. And finally, we're going to see the elite skill, Heaven's Palm. This is another powerful crowd control skill. A lot stronger than the 2-second stun we saw on the, what was this called? Heel crack? Yeah, heel kick, heel crack, same thing. Heaven's Palm, 4-second knockdown. This is a single target, but it's also going to do a kind of an area attack around you. So this will knock down your target and push everyone else away. So this is kind of trying
Kinda
to
good on
isolate
bodies.
your primary target, really enable that kind of assassin-y gameplay where I isolate the primary target or isolate the priority target and then unload my damage. 4-second knockdown, super long. I think only backbreaker. Someone's going to fact check me and destroy.
Do you want to fact check him?
No. Oh, wait, yeah. The Gale is also 4 seconds.
Yeah.
This, but I think backbreaker is the only one that hits 4-second duration outside of any extensions. That's probably wrong, but why not? 4-second duration, very long. It's an elite skill. We were kind of talking earlier how
I mean, it's hilarious to me to now see this elite skill with a 45-second cooldown.
Yeah. I
It's-
mean,
it's
Gale
so
has
funny.
a 40-second cooldown.
Yeah, no, I mean, in comparison to the other skills we just saw. And Gale's a weapon
Yeah.
skill. It's really weird. Even for,
This is AoE knockdown.
yeah, I'm thinking of this from a PvE perspective. I don't think it's a very fun elite. There's no way in hell I'm not going to run renewed focus on this spec. I mean, come on.
You're right.
It's going to be
you're right. You would just do that
in the
for sure.
competitive spaces. So in the PvE spaces, I really want a fun thing to play with. I don't know whether this is it. Sorry. I'd
Do
probably
you think
rather.
it's setting up the fact that there's going to be a fun little stomping trait that comes with this, an elite, a grandmaster trait that makes stomping insanely important or insanely powerful on this spec?
Is there? Sorry,
And-
have I forgotten about one of the traits? What are you telling me? There's a trait that makes this really good.
There's a trait that makes stomping really easy for these guys, and
Wow, is there? I
and
must
this
have
might
missed
just
that.
be a setup.
Oh, okay.
No, you'll remember it. You'll remember it.
Okay, all right. But yeah, I don't know. For the whole PvE side of things, I'm not too sure on that one. This, to me, I don't like the icon too much here. Sorry, I'm being so grouchy about a lot of this stuff. I think what it is that it feels a lot like a Firebrand mantra. It feels like a beta Firebrand mantra that they maybe had left over.
this character not necessarily supposed to set themselves up as much. Elite skills are typically a spot that we tend to
Yeah, this character's not meant to set itself up that much, and yet we've just rolled through like 5 tools it has to do so.
Different, yeah.
break or bend rules a little bit more. So this really kind of pushes that more crowd control option. Maybe you build a little bit tankier. You build, take heel crack, take Heaven's Palm, a little bit more of that disruptive brawler instead of the full glass cannon, the assassin. But Heaven's Palm, pretty strong cooldown in the elite slot.
I also think this whole setup conversation is a bit weird to be ignorant to all the stuff that Core Guard has to set itself up. Like, there's a lot of immob on that profession.
Right to sprint, mobility.
Oh yeah.
Super fast,
forgot.
guardian build. This makes sense. Let's get movement speed. Let's get some swiftness.
Dude,
What
I
if
mean,
I-
even this, it's like, what? Hold
Yeah.
on, Dragon Hunter has this anyway now, right? So it's just
Does it?
it's just a Dragon Hunter. Yeah, didn't they add it to Dragon Hunter?
I don't remember. Probably.
I think Dragon Hunter has this now. As long as that, it's like their Wings of Resolve trait. I think it's
okay.
when you use
But this is a minor.
when
This is
you
a minor,
yeah.
though.
I mean, it's just wild to me. And again, it's another double trait. I don't think the swiftness on Virtue bit needs to be there.
Makes a lot of sense. Fits the character thematically. We see this
Yeah,
a lot
probably
on the
not.
master tier minor trait of elite specializations.
I
with-
get the idea that it fits the character if it's all about mobility on the character, in which case I kind of think this is fine. The best situation is actually to tweak the DH thing.
Yeah.
It is really just reinforcing kind of the character identity. Then moving in, some of you probably noticed I was getting stacks of a buff as we were firing off these virtues. That was lethal tempo. So this is the Grandmaster Minor damage bonus
Yeah.
trait.
So basically 15%
And this is something
base damage.
kind of new and cool that we're doing on a handful of buffs. With
I don't see
special
anybody running this
specializations
build
where
without
it's
getting
going to
full stacks
actually
of lethal tempo.
refresh the duration of itself every time you apply it. So that's a little bit different from the mechanics we see with like boons, where each stack of might is going to fall off independently as those durations expire. Lethal tempo, I get a stack of this, and then there's 1 second left on that stack, but I get a second stack. Now I have 2 stacks, both at full duration.
Is this? They don't
it's
mention. Is
really-
this strike damage or both types of damage?
I think he said out loud strike damage a second ago.
Oh, that's lame.
Yeah, you'd think that they would be clarifying now that they're doing that nomenclature.
Yeah, because the whole point of justice is burning. So why aren't you also doing condition damage on this?
What do you think about this stack thing, by the way? I feel like they're prepping it for something. They're setting something up. I'm trying to think of stuff earlier on in Guild Wars that could also benefit from this. So the one thing I thought of when I was first watching the stream was like Thorn runes. I think that this kind of thing would work really well there. You know, just so it's like there's like this sense of like actual momentum and snowball as you build
I see what
the
you're saying.
stacks, and now they're like sticking on there. But once you finally lose the stacks, you lose them all at once. I really like that idea. I'm just wondering.
I do too.
I'm just wondering where else they might be applying it or looking to retroactively apply it. So I don't know. Keep your eye out, maybe, guys.
They could use that. They could use that in a bunch of places for sure.
Maybe they'll rework Bloodlust and all that lot. Especially since we just saw the on-kill stuff being addressed, they might have something cooking.
Right.
Trying to
Right.
push kind of this natural build-up, this kind of building momentum aspect of this character, where initially you don't quite have your maximum potential, but assuming you stay in target, you stick to your targets, you do what this character is trying to do, you're going to build up lethal tempo and maintain lethal tempo and keep that damage bonus going. And it's
Again, should be
pretty
Condi
rewarding
damage
here.
too.
3% per stack for 5 stacks, 15%, really good. We'll see a little bit of a bonus there in the Grandmaster slot once we get there. So pretty strong damage trait. Moving into the adept traits, we're going to see it's pretty similar.
So the
theme
adept traits,
across
I
these
really
traits,
love
but
the
they're
design
all
of these adept traits.
'Cause they
I
all-
want to see more of this. in
They
the
all
game.
have drawbacks, right?
Yeah.
doing this more.
It's
natural
interesting that you'd
trade-off
actually
within
pick
the
your
trait
adept trait
itself.
probably more based on the drawback you want to avoid than the bonus you get.
So looking here at Boon Pact, increased concentration, 240 concentration in the adept slot, pretty impressive. But at the same time, allies will get reduced boons from you. So this is
First of all, this is an example. All the trait names I've really been loving. I think they're so cool. And like Boon Pact here, it sounds good. I really like. This is a good example of one of the ones that really resonates with me. I do kind of think with this, it almost feels like, hey guys, we want to do cool traits with concentration, but we're really scared about you stacking these things and spamming Feel My Wrath. So we'll do it this way. You know, it really feels like they're just scared of like the quickness from Feel My Wrath.
There's two things about this too that I want to point out. Number one is I like that they have the little in parenthèse there, the plus 16% boon duration.
Yeah, they
because-
actually show you what the concentration is, right?
Yeah, because that definitely doesn't happen. Like I'm gonna say 10% of the game population knows the conversion.
No, Boots. Even less than that.
Okay,
Probably
well, anyway, so
like
this is good.
0.2%. If
This
that.
is good.
Yeah.
The thing I want to say though is that they are gonna have to clarify the tooltip a bit. It says gain concentration, but boons you apply to allies have reduced for duration. They have to change it to apply to other allies because so many traits say apply to allies and it includes yourself.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Also, what they have in the parentheses there, I think that it's not consistent, right? We even obviously it doesn't exist in the game right now, but even through all the new elite specs we've seen, they didn't have that say on Harbinger and stuff. But yeah, it's cool.
Again, pushing that really selfish, assassin-y playstyle for this character. If I want to extend my Fury durations from Monk's Focus, if I want more Resolution duration to keep up my crit chance from Righteous Instinct, maybe you go into Boon Pact. Probably not, because the next trait we're going to talk about is more just straight up power focused, but it's definitely an option if you're looking to just have a little bit more boon duration.
Yeah, what would I want for self boons? Probably save yourselves, stuff like that. Definitely not Fury on Monk's Focus. I mean, come on, I'm getting Fury on Sword anyway.
Going into power for power, here you go. 240 power, minus 240 toughness. So pretty big trade-off there for a pretty big gain. This is pushing Guardian down pretty close into that light armor range. So bottom health, bottom armor-ish. It's feeling a little bit more like an Elementalist, so you can enjoy going into the down state and pressing all your abilities there, as Ellie mains are all used to.
Yeah, this is a weird one to me, because I feel like this is such a Berserker identity kind of thing. This is basically a minor when you pick up Berserker, isn't it? And then you get the GM that can kind of bring you back if you opt for it. There's one of the sort of brawler.
Right.
GMs.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it's a choice here.
Yeah.
But again, as long as you're, playing well, dodging your abilities, just dodge. 240 power in the adept slot, pretty powerful trait.
Definitely a big PvE thing, strike mission thing. If this is seen play there.
For sure.
And finally, we have Conceited Curate here in the bottom trait line. Gives a little bit of healing power at the trade-off of not healing
This
allies.
one I'm not so
this
sure
This character
about.
doesn't really want to heal allies anyway, so it's just a bit more upside. 240 healing power, maybe not all that much. This could definitely be
it's not
higher.
that much.
We're definitely going to be, watching the data from the beta.
This is like reverse benevolence, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. It's. I mean, I think that you're not going to really notice 240 healing power. So yeah.
Do you
I don't
know?
if this
Oh
is
my god, I've forgotten the name of it. What was that classic Guardian build? Altruistic healing. Is it just called?
Yeah,
Is it-
altruistic. Whenever you give a boon to somebody, it heals them.
It heals you. It heals you. Isn't that the way it
okay.
works?
Thought so.
It was a super classic thing, and you'd run around in World vs. World spamming shouts and stuff, and you'd be like an immortal god. I kind of like the idea of this has sort of brought that trait back, kind of, because it got thrown into the dirt. And I don't think, I haven't, I'm not familiar with World vs. World Zerg stuff in contemporary era. Maybe people
That
have
could
been
be good,
running
but I think the healing power might be a little undertuned.
Yeah.
Watching all the feedback from the beta, seeing what's overtuned, what's undertuned. This is definitely something that could come up.
I think they know that as well. It's just that it's
Yeah.
going to look really weird having a trait that says like
That's
plus 500 power.
100
Yeah.
instead of the 240.
Yeah.
Everything else is 240. Why isn't this? But
Yeah.
you know what?
Or even if those other ones weren't even there, just the idea of a trait that's so crazy it's like 580 or whatever. It's like, what the hell?
Needs a little bit more
Yeah.
of that selfish sustain, if that's the option you want to go to. This is the
But yeah, I like the idea of that and like improving the virtues F2. Oh, well, but you don't get passive anymore. I don't know about it. I don't know. The Signet Elite maybe with this?
trait for you.
Maybe.
So then let's move.
The thing is, you're so low vitality that basically you can just run Monk's Focus and put some meditations on and you're sort of alright.
Trait we're going to see in the Master Tier slot. Restorative Virtues. This is actually a really interesting trait, and it's really trying to push the mobility aspect of this character. Basically, what it says, while a virtue is active, activating another virtue reduces the initial virtue's cooldown reduction, cooldown time by its remaining duration. That's a lot of words.
That's all right.
But what does it actually
It's just
mean?
like basically if you're.
So basically what it
It's
means
like a PvP
is
trait, I'd say.
if you're just kind of rapid firing your virtues, you're going to get refunded for the amount of time that you did not spend in that virtue stance, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So if I pop off Justice here, 6 seconds of Justice, but I immediately pop Resolve, you see a big cooldown refund on Justice there. And similarly, if
Actually,
we pop into Courage,
very good PvP trait
Yeah,
because
this-
it brings your Brings your cooldowns up faster for your mobility.
Yeah, this to me seems really OP and also play style defining. This to me is like a GM. That would like the spirit of a GM to me, a Grandmaster trait. This feels really, really powerful to me. Like that's such a huge refund, man, on the F1.
Up to 6 seconds if you don't get any benefit from your thing, but you get the initial skill, which is the movement skill essentially.
Yeah, so you know, and chaining them together, I think people will do very, very, very often. So what's it competing with? Let's see.
Early Holy Reckoning. So this augments Willbender Flames, 33% damage increase. That's a really large number, but as I touched on earlier, Willbender Flames are not really something that we're intending to be kind of this main damage source anyway. So you're looking at 33% on top of a pretty small power coefficient already. It's not going to be doing a whole lot of value there. The main upside here is the healing per target struck.
See, I really like this, by the way. I really like the idea that, like, someone might look at 33% and say, that's obnoxious, that's so much. Why doesn't my class get that kind of modifier? But I like, you know, have it be weaker if you like. You know, whatever the baseline effect of it can be pretty weak. But then if the trait is really potent, that's what matters to me more than anything else. I just want the trait to feel really different. So I kind of really
I would like to say this, though. I would like to say this. He, like, in explaining the trait, saying the 33%, he even, like, basically says, but look, the coefficient on it to begin with isn't that high, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Why even put it on the trait if it's not that big of a deal? Do something else. Say your will bending flames triggered twice per second instead of once per second or something.
Well, then that's like 100% basically, right? You've just doubled it.
Yeah, but okay, then don't do that. Trigger 33% faster so that you could actually interact with other things in that case.
Yeah. I like the idea that something is fairly weak and it's sort of there, and then a trait makes it really strong. And I feel like sometimes you have to put a big number like 33 on there for it to work out. And I wish they would be brave enough to do that elsewhere.
My understanding is from what he's saying is that the 33% isn't going to make it really strong. It's just going to make it slightly better.
I don't know. I have a little bit more respect for the design than that. Surely it will make it. It's going to give it impact, right? All right, let's see the next one. Activating courage grants protection and resolution. Shadow stepping grants resistance. Oh god, it's this one. This one's mental. All right, let's hear his spiel. So
you're going to look at this trait. And maybe in
he's
combination
going to do the
with
second
Resolve.
one first, though.
If you're hitting a lot of targets, we're going to see a lot of potential healing. I mean, the courage...
I love the sound effects on these, man. Did you hear how courage sound? The
sound like a wind.
It sounded awesome.
AoE is probably the most easy to hit the most targets with, the big circle, but Resolve is also going to be giving you those Resolve procs at the same time.
I'd like to see it scale well off of healing power so that trait in the adept slot is actually good.
Willbender Flames, which all heal you, so a bit more of sustain. This is going to be great in those larger fights where you're hitting multiple targets with these Willbender Flames. A lot of potential healing coming up from that trait. And finally, we're going to look at Vanguard Tactics. So this is a pretty powerful trait again. All these traits seem pretty strong, except for, you know, Consume Curate. We'll throw that one on.
Can you pause it just for a sec?
It's interesting he's openly saying that he doesn't think this trait looks strong. Yeah, go on.
I know. What about instead of plus 240 healing power, it was plus 10% healing to you?
Well, I mean, they could do that, but that's just another way of describing the same situation, isn't it?
Not exactly.
No, it's not exactly, but it's essentially. I don't really think it solves the problem.
Not really, because there's a base heal on everything. Yeah, so it creates a fact that you are, yeah, I guess so. It is going to be more healing, but I'm just thinking that you could put healing power onto your build, and this affects the base healing too, and the healing that you've put into your build. It'll just be overall better if you do percentage rather than the 240.
Yeah, or you could just put the number higher and it would be overall better as well.
I guess so. But, fine.
It's just a creative way of buffing it. But it's the same concept. All right.
It is.
A little bit on the weaker side. But a lot of good traits here in the Willbender kit. And Vanguard Tactics is kind of this two-pronged, multifaceted thing where up front, it's going to just augment courage. And courage is going to give you protection and resolution on top of what it already does. We have a similar trait over in Virtues that gives protection on courage. So those are going to add together. We're going to get a lot of potential protection duration if you take both of those together. But the kind of secondary component of this skill, or this trait rather, is that it gives you resistance on any shadow step. So we're looking at skills like Judge's Intervention, Symbol Blades. Guardian has a lot of Shadow Steps. We have even more Shadow Steps on the Willbender kit as well. So potentially a lot of resistance uptime. And this one is actually...
Right, let's pause it. I'm bursting to speak about this. This does not need to be a... This is another double trait. It doesn't need to be a double trait. Just the resistance at the end of a shadow step.
Crazy powerful.
It's insane, man.
Because yeah, this whole thing is built around being able to move around. So the only thing that could stop that from being super powerful is if somebody could shut it down by putting lots of slow or sorry, not slow, like cripple, chill, immobilize. But as soon as you put a trait that gives you infinite resistance, essentially.
No, all of that, you're immune to all of that. All right, you're perfect. What you just said, I couldn't agree with more. I think you're a genius for saying that. Here's another thing as well that really strikes me. It's immunity to blindness and weakness. So, like, if you're trying to just counter pressure them, like, oh, I'll put weakness on it. No. He's immune to that as well. It's insane. It's insane. It's ridiculous to even consider that it's a double trait and gives you an extra thing on F3. I mean, what is this? So, I mean, enjoy this in the betas, guys. I cannot imagine it lasting. It's going to feel like a completely different class once this is gone, I think.
How many Shadow Steps do you got? 1, 2, 3.
I think on any reasonable build, you would have 3, because you'd have JI, Sword, and F3. All right, and you Yeah, and then you could maybe add one of theirs as well. Good point, actually. Maybe 4. Maybe all reasonable builds are 4. I don't know. I mean, maybe you're getting a bit too hyper-focused on it there.
And you said F3 was a Shadow Step, right?
Yeah. But even then, even if it's just 3, the point isn't about permanent uptime on it or whatever. The point is that you're trying to do damage after you Shadow Step into someone, right?
And isn't Sword Offhand 5 also a Shadow
Yes,
Step?
Yes, it is. You're right. You don't even need to run a utility. Just Sword, Willbender. And the point is, if you've just used Sword 2, if you've just used Sword 5, if you've just used F3 into someone, then that's when the resistance matters. Guess what? That's exactly when you've got it. And then your point as well with the movement incapacitating stuff, if I'm trying to use that stuff to flee away, well, hey-oh, I'm all right with that as well. So yeah, really insane. What a crazy trait.
And that's also with no boon duration. 3 seconds.
Oh yeah.
This is more after the change we made to the resistance boon in the recent.
I don't want to be too PvP focused on this video as well. So speaking about PvE, I actually think that's a really fun and cool trait. If I think about like running around in POF or like in all the random little cripples or like the blind spam against like scarabs and stuff in POF, and like fighting against Awakened where they're just reactively putting weakness out on me. I think that this is really cool for PvE.
It really shows you though. Okay, so you asked earlier, what does the play style trait have to deal with? This is what it has to deal with.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So I don't know. I think this will be nerfed. I would love to see this stay the same for PvE, but I think it has to be nerfed for competitive. And the day it's nerfed for competitive, everyone would probably run the top trait straight away. Anyway,
they could put the protection and resolution onto the middle trait, and it would be more balanced.
Yeah. There's also an idea of just not doing resistance on Shadow Step, but doing resolution on Shadow Step. But I mean, Guardian already has so much resolution anyway. Oh, by the way, one thing I haven't thought about for a while, I was wondering if they were swapping Retaliation into Resolution because they were going to bring Retail back in one of the elite specs. And if they were doing it, I was wondering if the Guardians one was going to get it. Willbender didn't. So
I don't know, because when they changed Retaliation to Resolution, the stuff that they wrote about it was because there's no real good counterplay with Retaliation. Nobody really likes it.
But as a broad ubiquitous feature that like is kind of unwieldy because it's in so many areas. If you have like a more accurate, specifically applied version of the mechanic in one area, I think
not a boon.
It could be more tangibly handled and you can do stuff with it.
Sure.
So anyway, it's just an idea, and maybe it would have been here, but it's not.
Balance update, where previously resistance was, full condition immunity, and that's way too powerful an effect to put on such a repeatable source like on Shadow Step. But with the move to non-damaging conditions only, it's something that really fits this more assassin-y melee character playstyle because you're going to be mitigating, ignoring cripple, immob, weak.
Just literally think about if Rev had that for its Shiro, everyone would be running it.
Blind,
This is
like
again,
all
but
these
this is
things
I
that
think
shut
we're in
down melee
PvE right now,
characters
not
so well.
PvP as their Sanqua peak.
Yeah.
This could already be balanced in PvP. This could be 1 second of resistance in
It's
PvP.
still too much at 1 second, I think. But you're right.
think?
You're right. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
1 second.
I'd
though.
put it at half a second in its balance in PvP.
All right.
You're going to have access to resistance on your engage, assuming you blink in with either Courage or JI or any number of these shadow steps. And okay, you can just chain them together, get more and more resistance. A lot of opportunity to really unload all of your damage while ignoring those non-damaging conditions. And almost done. So close. Only 3 more traits to go, and we're done with all the specs.
Yeah, and
So,
not at all
get to them in
the
a
busted
short minute
traits in the game.
I only remember
totally-
one of these going into this right now.
There are 2 very strong ones.
All right. So, common theme amongst Grandmaster traits or the Willbender is that they're all going to augment one of the virtues in their particular way. They're all pretty different, but
I like that. I want to use
they're all
virtues more.
pretty
I want to use the
powerful. Just
virtue
throw out
line
that word
more
again,
too.
why not? Call everything powerful, and then when it's not powerful, you guys can all give me flack for it on forums or wherever you feel like doing that. Starting with Phoenix Protocol, this is going to be your resolve,
Like in YouTube videos?
augmenting resolve. So instead of the upfront heal on that passive trigger, you're instead going to get a little bit of regeneration, so heal over time, a little bit less valuable to this Glacier character. You'd rather have the upfront heal, but instead we're giving you regen and also then giving you alacrity on top of that.
So this is strong.
this is
I'm
what
just gonna say right
leans
now,
more
this is
into
very
that
strong.
cooldown
I thought of you when I saw this, Boots, because you were talking about, like, you wanted to see alacrity come to Ranger specifically.
Self buffer.
A class that
Yeah.
didn't have it yet, and here it is already.
reduction
Here it is.
type of gameplay where we're going to see resolve now giving me alacrity. You can build up a lot of alacrity again.
Yeah.
Look at how much alacrity that is, just from F2.
Yeah.
He just puts a sword symbol down, that's it.
Cleaning
Yeah, he's
out
done.
a ton
He's,
of targets
and
here,
now
multi-hit skills.
He had
You can get
8.
access-
He had 8 shadow steps / rushes at his disposable, all on like 30-second or lower cooldowns, and now they're all on 20-second or lower cooldowns.
to a lot of alacrity, so that's going to reduce your virtue cooldowns, going to reduce your damage cooldowns, going to reduce your crowd control cooldowns. It's going to enable you to kind of press more buttons, which I love pressing buttons, and I imagine a lot of players
Who
like pressing
doesn't?
buttons too. So
No, the game needs to slow down. I want to press one button every minute. I want it to be like chess, all right? More strategy.
alacrity,
So play Scourge.
really valuable component given in exchange for trading that upfront heal for that slower over time regeneration. And the bonus note there is that resolve
I
duration
like it.
actually goes
I like
up
it. You don't heal as much, but that alacrity is very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really for me to add to this except this is super strong.
Yeah.
So increasing
Probably too strong. A tune we've said
Probably
many
too
times.
strong, yeah.
Beta balance, let's have fun.
the duration and just giving you more and more resolve triggers. Next up, we have Tyrant's Momentum. This is going to be the Justice Augment. 2-second duration increase. This also modifies lethal
So-
tempo, which
Yeah. No, I was just
talking
gonna
about
say I think that this is not that interesting, but it'll be interesting for me just to see how this interacts with the justice quote unquote passive, with the virtue trait for justice. I just see how it all works.
I was interested. So go on.
How much damage you actually do. And again, I want that lethal tempo. I want it to be all types of damage, not just strike damage. I really hope it is.
Yeah, I was really interested in the names of these final GMs, by the way, because wasn't one mentioning a Phoenix, and here we have the Tyrant. I was wondering if they were referring to the Celestials because of the whole Wayno Su connection.
a little bit earlier.
I think
this-
they're
instead of
talking more
3%
about,
per stack, we're now looking at 5% per
Empire.
stack, but also a shorter duration. So this actually reduces lethal tempo from 6 seconds to 4. It's really going to require you to stick to those targets, keep hitting them, keep proccing your justice, keep proccing your resolve, keep proccing all your virtues, activating your virtues to make sure that lethal tempo keeps refreshing itself, keep stacking up, really maximize your damage. And it also gives a little bit more opportunity for players to disengage or land a long CC to force the Guardian, force the Willbender out of that lethal tempo, lose all their stacks, and kind of give you that reprieve. and a little bit of breathing room. And finally, we have Deathless Courage.
I really like the idea of like actually monitoring their tempo and knowing how much danger I'm in based on their tempo. I don't, with how many modifiers get mixed up in the game, and I don't know whether I'll ever really have that experience like they're talking about there, but it's a cool thought.
Save.
But that damage goes up to 25 now, eh? That minor damage, the lethal tempo thing.
It's quite a lot.
Craziest for last. I mean, it's not crazy, but I mean, it's a little bit crazy.
It's a little
Carl told me
crazy.
about this trait when he was building it. I'm like, Carl, that's crazy. But you know, we talked about it, and it's definitely an interesting trait. It's something we want to see how it plays. So I'll just hover this tooltip for a second while I snag some water, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more.
So
When you first saw this, what did you think?
I thought it was a lot stronger than I currently believe it is.
All right. So
Oh,
Deathless
okay.
Courage. This augments your courage virtue. And it says, as long as courage is active, you cannot die. Your health cannot go below 1 HP. That is a pretty powerful effect. It does reduce the duration of courage here, so we're seeing the 4-second courage duration instead of the baseline 6. There's a little bit of a extending kind of momentum building opportunity here as well. For every player kill you get a couple of extra seconds there, up to 4 seconds duration, so you can get up to 8 seconds of this kind of no death mechanic.
Do you hear him say player kill there? I think he's very competitive minded rather than
I think so,
the other
yeah.
areas of the game.
If you are kind of chaining kills together, otherwise it's going to be a 4 seconds, can't die. But this doesn't have the same kind of bailout heal that we see on like AED, which has the same mechanic. I can't die when I have AED, and it's going to heal me for a lot if I would die. Instead, this is just going to keep me at 1 HP, and I better get out of range before when courage ends, or I'm just going to fall over because someone's going to touch me and I'm going to take 1 damage and go into the downstate. So, I mean, this is something you're going to want to. This is something that's going to enable you to really dive in and again push all your buttons and then have an opportunity to get out.
True.
We saw a similar kind of.
Right, and then he talks about how flash combo can kind of enable it. All right, so Boots, what are your thoughts on that GM?
My thoughts are that it is very useful. That it might be a little bit. I mean, so is it more powerful than distortion? I don't know. I don't know if it is that much more powerful than distortion, for example. And distortion is pretty ubiquitous on a lot of mesmers. So, can you say that it's overpowered when mesmers have something like distortion? I don't know if you can. But the amount of things you could use it on are pretty impressive. Like, for example, when I said about stomping things, you can now, you see a down body, you shadow step courage onto that down body, and you basically guarantee a stomp because you can't be cleaved down anymore while stomping.
Boots.
And you've got stability.
I don't know. I don't see it.
Okay, all right. You just can't be cleaved down while stomping a body now with it.
Yeah, but I think you've got a point. All right, there is kind of a niche for it in the competitive mode. So maybe you'll see it.
Also,
there.
world versus world. I know there's a maximum duration of it. So like maximum up to 8 seconds now. So that is the limiting factor there. So it's not. There are a lot of kills in world versus world, but there's a limiting factor in there.
Well, world versus world is the only place I think that this is really interesting because the kill
It
frequency
is very good
there.
in world versus world.
For open world PvE and stuff, it doesn't heal you at the end. So the idea of like,
But you do have a heal that you could use while courage is on.
I'm just in all seriousness, put me in a really difficult story mission. Put me anywhere in the open world. Put me in a really difficult meta event even. How often do I really... I mean, meta events immediately fall apart if you're in a group and it's a difficult one because you can have healers and stuff around it in the state of the game as it is now. How often is it really true that I'm zerging around from target to target to target, chaining kills, but I'm also on 0 health the whole time? Or threatened with kills.
I don't think this is a general PvE.
No, I don't think it's an anywhere PvE trait. I think it's even going to be kind of fiddly. It's going to be kind of fiddly to like cheese like big mechanics in certain strikes and raids.
Yeah.
There might be a bit of space for it, but a bit of space. I don't really think it's that amazing.
You could definitely cheese insta kill mechanics with this, unless they like work around it with their program.
No. The thing is, you got to think the thing that you got to consider with this is RP. Is it a mechanic then that you're not allowed to cheese with a true invuln, But then you are allowed to cheese with this. Because if you're in that world, that's obviously an unintended thing that would get nerfed straight away. So it's not worth talking about. So, again, like, for most gameplay, I really don't see it as a big thing. And you talk about stab and PvP, I think you just get corrupted.
I think it's very strong in competitive games.
You just get corrupted. It's as simple as that.
What do you mean?
They'll flip the stab into fear and you'll fall away.
But...
Or there'll be a transfuse type mechanic. They'll daze you through steel. They'll stealth the body. They'll res under your feet.
Yeah, so there is some counterplay.
There is more than enough counterplay.
You still have 4 seconds to stomp them without dying.
I think sometimes, you'll be able to get a safe stomp out of it. Big deal. There are a ton, as you just alluded to with the distortion thing, there are a ton of safe stomp options already in the game. Everyone's familiar with this kind of stuff. So what? There's a GM.
I think it's strong. I still think it's strong.
Let me be clear. And the previous videos I've done on this topic, I've talked very openly about how insanely OP this thing looked. But the more I've thought about it, the more I've thought, meh, it's actually not that crazy. I actually view
there is some counterplay. I think that it is a very, very strong trait, though.
Yeah, I think it's strong. I think I actually think it's a good trait. In as much as I can see it being worthwhile, and it's not ludicrously out of this world OP. I actually think it's pretty middle of the road, to be honest.
I don't know if it's middle of the road, but I think that it is definitely not necessarily too strong unless there's some certain circumstances that people find that it's literally broken in. But it is very, very strong for a Grandmaster.
Well, there you have it, guys. That's our thoughts on the Willbender.
Consider this versus like 20% extra damage.
Have you got any other thoughts on the spec, Boots?
No, I think it just looks like the most fun thing to play.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. My main thought with this thing is it feels like it needs to move a little less and hit a little harder. But I don't know whether that's just because these are some really tanky golems that we saw here, you know.
Well,
and I don't know whether that's because he wasn't using greatsword and he wasn't using hammer and he wasn't sort of bombing out the big damage. So maybe
I think they're definitely tanky golems because of the fact that you saw the tooltip for skill 4.
Yeah, it was
that
really
said
big,
the double strike was 2,500 damage or something like that, and when it actually crit on the golem, it was only 2,300 damage.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, so there you go, guys. Thanks very much for watching. The beta will hopefully be hot on our heels. I'm going to try and put these videos out pretty quick. It's been a really fun series, Boots. And who knows how long till our break is after the betas before they start revealing new ones, right?
Probably a little while.
But we should be able to play it very soon, guys. Let me know what you're going to be testing out, whether that's here on the Willbender or on the other specs. I'll be reading the comments as always, and don't forget as well, you can catch Boots. I'll remind me to put a link in the description. I often forget. You can find Boots over at World of Enders. I'm in a video of his at some point soon, I think. And he's got lots of theorycraft and cool stuff going on over there. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you shortly off in the future.
All right, goodbye.
Take care now.